Astra travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we pew-pewed our way through Mondstadt as we discussed Diona. This week, we're heading to Liyue to talk about another cryo baddie as we talk about our half-adepti, half-human friend, Ganyu.
Are you looking for the goat? Well, you found her. And after your nap, head on over to our website at talesofteyvat.com, where Tiff has overworked herself by making a Ganyu page for your sensitive little horns.
While you're on our site, check out our past episodes and seasons, artist spotlights from the community for every topic, and some other goodies.
Finally, feel free to email Albedo at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com to let him know what you thought about this episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. Additionally, you can let Albedo know if there's any type of different content or merch you'd like to see on our Ko-fi shop as well. Albedo is keeping a beautifully detailed spreadsheet of everything for us, and he's been doing an amazing job as he volunteers for Tales of Teyvat, guys. Let's give it up for Albedo. Clap, clap, clap.
Hey!
Number one volunteer in all of our hearts. Additionally, travelers can feel free to rate us wherever they listen to their podcasts. Let other travelers know that there is a cryo good time happening over in Angel Share. And travelers can feel free to check out our Ko-fi, where we not only have a merch shop, but we also have a donation page set up so that we can get caffeinated with some coffee, soda, and help us fund everything that makes Tales of Teyvat run.
Is it a cryo good time because we're chill people?
Yeah. And because I cryo all the time. But speaking of the things that keep things running, we have Ganyu.
She keeps a lot of shit running.
Yes, not me, but that's fine. Now, my first introduction to Ganyu was through a video by a YouTuber called Aris. I think Vanessa lightly mentioned him last week at the end of our Diona episode, where he had never played Genshin, and he was watching someone else spend hundreds of dollars trying to get Ganyu. $1,000 trying to get Ganyu?
Yeah, to C6 Ganyu.
Yeah, so this guy's trying to, C6 Ganyu, spending all this money, and this guy is reacting to the video, and he goes, "Is Ganyu even good?" And that's my first impression of Ganyu. I was like, no, she's terrible. Boo. Thousands of dollars. What?
Yeah. My favorite is I told him to practice. He never listens to me. I told him to practice. Wishing. That was the whole thing.
The guy lost his 50-50 and Aris is like, did he even practice?
It's very funny, and it'll be on the site too because it's joyful.
It's also literally what Tiff said to me when I couldn't get our meeting started in time for this recording. She was like, you should have practiced getting the Zoom going, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, shit. Now, Aris and Ganyu aside, what were your first impressions of our little unicorn?
Unicorn?
She's a dose unicorn. No. Duocorn. There's got to be a word for duo.
Is she a goat, a chimera, a cow?
Don't call her a cow. It will trigger her.
Yeah, she's got a lot of body issues.
I really want her to meet Veressa.
Seriously.
Absolutely. Veressa would be like, girl, you literally need to put on weight. And Veressa would say that to every girl in this game, and I'd agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be so cute.
The hips are lying.
Ganyu would be like, finally.
Although Ganyu is a vegetarian, so she might struggle with Veressa.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but Veressa knows so many food types that I'm sure she would be fine.
And she could just go to her parents' farm, her orchard.
I go to her orchard every day.
I do. I steal all of her shit.
Oh my God, I thought you said parents' barn for a second.
Oh no. I'm stealing the barn.
I'm like, I go there every day.
The farm animals.
If you do Veressa's, and I know we'll get to Ganyu in a second, but if you do Veressa's story, one of the things when you go to the orchard is she's like, oh, and help yourself to something. I'm like, I already did. I already took all your shit. Sorry. It's just a habit. I walk somewhere and there's stuff on the ground. I must pick it up.
Like sparkles.
Yeah.
Gotta grab them. Yeah.
Also, in the Veressa story quest, there's talking mushrooms, and I wonder how Ganyu would feel about those. If she'd be able to eat the mushrooms from that orchard.
Yeah. Man, she can't go to
I don't think
Sumeru.
so.
Oh yeah, Ganyu would go to Sumeru and panic. She'd be like, everything I'm eating is a living being. But what do you guys remember, like your first time seeing Ganyu, or like, was it the Archon quest, or?
I don't remember the context, but I do remember seeing her for the first time and being like, whoa, she has horns. That's cool.
I love that. That's cool. It was so early on. You had never met anything else with horns or ears, really, right? Like,
Yeah, like I guess I know Sucrose had the ears, but I didn't even clock them because I didn't know Sucrose had ears for a while. I thought that was her hair.
and
Yeah.
she does that on purpose. So
Yeah.
And even like Yanfei, I thought that was her hair. I don't think it was horns.
Yeah, and do you meet Ganyu before Yanfei? I feel like you meet her
I think you
before,
do.
right? Yeah.
you meet Ganyu in the second act of the Archon quest, briefly.
Yeah, I liked her when I saw her. I thought she was very pretty. I loved her eyes. She has, they call it sectoral heterochromia because it goes from one color to the other.
Oh, like the ombre?
Yeah. And
Oh.
funny enough, I had a friend who had heterochromia, and that was actually one of her eyes. It went to blue to brown, and then the other eye was blue.
Heterochromia is one of the most beautiful things I've ever
It's
seen.
really neat.
When someone has a blue eye and a green eye, I'm in love. So, just know that if you ever meet me and that's you, fucked
Amanda will be in love with you.
immediately just by the eyeballs.
Did you love Ganyu?
No.
Oh.
I said blue and green eyes.
Yeah, but I liked her. I thought she was very pretty, but I've never grasped very well the concept of a bow. In theory, I can use a bow, but I'm not a good bow user. And like Venti was kind of where I forced myself to, and now I'm forcing myself because I love Orion, and he's a bow. But I like his when it's just a bow, I just have such a hard time. Like I'm dumb with it, so I don't use her, but I look at her.
Honestly, how I feel using a catalyst. So I get it. I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I can't aim. Where is the enemy?
Well, okay. Well, what about you, B? Is there any weapon that you're like a little fumbly on?
I mean, the bow for sure.
The bow.
Yeah.
The one thing that somebody taught me about a bow that was the best thing that's ever happened is that if you aim with a bow and you're walking along like a tight rope type of thing, like you do in Economia, when you're using a bow, you won't fall off.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I have such a fear of heights that I actually have a fear of heights in the game.
I play this game on PS5 maybe like half the time. And I always play with my PS5 controller, even when I'm playing on PC. So the bow is always hard for me. Yet, I have played both Horizon games featuring Aloy, a character from Genshin Impact,
Who?
who uses a bow and arrow. So I've played games where I'm just like constantly shooting arrows with the bow with that controller. And, I do get better at it as I go through a game like that where I'm constantly having to use it. But in Genshin, you don't have to use it constantly. So I never really get the hang of it. Also, and I know you can probably adjust the settings, but the sensitivity is different in Genshin.
Yeah.
Also, the newer generation of Tomb Raider games, you use the bow and arrow a lot, and I played those. So I'm okay with using bow and arrow with my PS5 controller, but in Genshin, it's just when you have the alternative to not have to do that, you don't really want to.
Like, you know what? I'm moving on.
Yeah.
But weapons aside, so Ganyu is okay. And something really important to know about that Ganyu.
Or she's good.
She's fine. Something really important to know about Ganyu right off the bat is that she is a half-adepti, half-human. And you do find this out during the Archon quest, and we'll get into the Archon in a second. But she is a Qinlin, and a Qinlin is an adepti. Now, that can mean I believe it's in Latin, Chinese unicorn. But typically they're creatures with one horn. They usually bring good luck. They appear a lot when sages are being born or die.
And they don't have to have one horn.
I mean, to be a unicorn, you typically do, but Ganyu's got two, so I don't fucking know.
they're associated with unicorns sometimes, but that's just one of the many meanings of a Qinlin. So
Okay.
And they're just usually hooved, right? Like that's a
yeah,
feature.
they have hooves and they are chimeric. So they are a mixture of mythological beasts.
And a chimera is what we always say, what's his name is, right? From the manga.
So Barnabas might be a chimera. Okay, let's break it down. Barnabas might be a manticore, but also a chimera. And a chimera, there's sort of the traditional chimera, which is the half lion, half goat. But then there's chimera can also mean just like any mixture of beasts that make up like a mythological beast.
Okay. Interesting.
So a Qilin is traditionally like chimeric because you'll see some of them are like more the traditional like lion goat type of thing. Others are more like a unicorn type of weird thing. Some are like kind of part dragon, part something else.
Mm-hmm.
So they can be different things in Chinese mythology.
And in this case, we have a half human and half Qinlin. So
Yeah. And I feel like she's goat coded.
Yeah.
the Coco-Goat.
She is the Coco-Goat.
But they also kind of make her hair almost like lionish. So I feel like they do kind of have a little bit of an homage to a chimera, like more of a chimeric type of thing.
They also put a goat bell on her neck.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's part of the reason I really want Varessa to meet her and be like, oh, I love that bell because it reminds me of a cowbell.
Yeah.
Trauma for poor Ganyu.
They say that the bell could mean like, bells, especially copper ones in Chinese culture, is a sign of like warding off evil and having like good vibes in general.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I also saw that somebody had a theory on of why she's wearing it is because she falls asleep in different places, so it wakes her up if she inadvertently starts moving.
You want to know something really fucked too for poor Ganyu? The outfit that she gets during Lantern Rite, the Twilight Blossom outfit that's gifted to her by Cloud Retainer, it has a cowbell too, or a goat bell. It also has one.
Even in her pretty up costume, she's wearing
wearing a bell. Cloud Retainer was like, I like this.
No, Cloud Retainer was like, I need to protect my daughter. Like she's very worried about her at all times.
She wants to make sure she can hear her coming.
But regardless, the other thing, the Qinlin are also a ransomware group. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I think that's really funny. And that a lot of times they target like hospitals, which is not funny. But I just was thinking about Ganyu being a hacker. But being half hacker.
Half hacker?
Half hacker.
A hacker with a conscience.
Yeah, Hacker Bunny Who. Go away, Star Rail.
She's like the Robin Hood of hackers.
Yeah, basically. She's hacking in to win money for the people who need it.
I hate it. I mean,
it's what she does in her dreams. No, it's what Zhongli does in her dreams, apparently. But anyway, so our first official introduction to Ganyu is not when she hacks into the Sumeru Academia, but when she hacks into our hearts, depending on who you are.
And not Feeny, in case you hadn't figured it out.
Listen, let me put it out right now. In the Chronicle banner for Liyue, Ganyu fucked me over. And I'm real mad about it.
Oh, is that the reason?
Well, and she's not good.
And she's not good.
I was trying to get Child, your boy, Mr. Worldwide, and she said no. And I said fuck off. And she fucked with me in my little Child constellation, so I'm unhappy with her.
Mm.
Do you know that I could have potentially another Child constellation? He could be C4 if she hadn't just like scooted her way in.
Well,
these damn kids.
You're welcome. She saved you.
She failed me. I was depressed for days. It was almost as bad as Nilu. Nothing could prepare me for that.
This explains a
day.
lot.
Yeah, anyway, Mr. Worldwide aside, we first meet Ganyu in the second act of the Liyue Archon quest, where she comes to find us and we're actually eating or in a restaurant with Zhongli, and she lets us know that Ningguang is inviting us up to the Jade Chamber. And this is the first time you meet Ganyu. It's also the first time that you will be meeting Ningguang. Sometime later, we are helping Zhongli gather glaze lilies for the Rite of Ascension, or I guess the funeral that is replacing the Rite of Ascension. But we run into Ganyu again, and this is where we learn a little bit more about her and how she has like really high respects for Rex Lapis and how she's really struggling with his death and she's not sure how to process it in the moment right now. And it seems pretty true that she has no idea what's going on, and she admits to us at this point too that she is an adepti herself.
I think it's worth mentioning that Ganyu actually, when she's talking about, how sad she is that Rex Lapis died because she doesn't know that he's still alive, she's the one that reveals that 5 of the other 7 Archons are already dead, and that Rex Lapis was 6,000 years old when he died, quote unquote died, and that he'd been around since Liyue was founded 3,700 years ago. So Ganyu sort of helps establish a lot of the timeline.
Yeah.
Because she's also old as fuck.
Yeah, like she was around at least 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of discrepancies about like her age and when she eventually signs a contract with Rex Lapis, and there's a lot of discrepancies about what year she may have signed on to that. But she has been in Liyue Harbor since its founding for the most part, and she's been the secretary for the Qixing since their founding, which is insanity. So she knows a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zhongli does say that she has served the longest time in reference to the contracts of those helping Rex Lapis. And I'm pretty sure that she signed a contract with him 3,000 years ago, which was apparently the start of the Archon War.
Yeah.
And then she stayed on when that ended, or, Liyue Harbor got founded 3,700 years ago. But she signed a contract with Rex Lapis around that time, 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, there's a discrepancy in that. In one place it said she signed the contract 3,000, and another place it says 3,700. It's very like wish-washy on the number, but it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, give or take 700, who cares?
Give or take a couple hundred years.
She decided to stay on board with Liyue Harbor.
And because of that, she got her vision, which is just the boringest way to get a vision. She took a job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to Toma. Toma decided to stay with the Kamisatos, knowing it could be rough. And I feel like Ganyu stayed with the humans, knowing it could be rough.
Well, I think with her, and we'll get into this, is she's half human, half adeptus. So she had sort of the choice of like, do I go with the adepti or do I go with the humans? Because, she had signed the contract with Rex Lapis, but she could help Rex Lapis as an adeptus. She didn't have to like stay and hang around with the humans, but she was like, you know what? I'm going to stay with this newly formed Liyue Harbor, and I'm going to be the secretary of this newly found Qixing. And once that happened, it was when the Qixing was formed, her decision to sort of stay and help the humans as, a half human, half adeptus, that's what granted her her vision, because it probably would have been a lot easier for her to go with adepti.
Oh, yeah. But, quick pause, we're going to go back to the Archon. As Brandon mentioned, the Ganyu lore drops on us with the glaze when we're just trying to pick glaze lilies.
Yeah.
And later we run back into Ganyu during the harbor battle when Child has decided he's going to kill everybody, although he knew that was never going to truly happen.
Yeah. Excuse.
Ganyu, Xiao, and Madame Ping kind of do some magic stuff to us so that we can help fight up on the Jade Chamber. And, we fight alongside Ganyu. And then later on, we actually, after that, don't see Ganyu again until the We Will Be Reunited Archon quest with Dainsleif, where she actually is the one who sets us off to find the upside down Venti statue. We find her at the Adventurers Guild, and she explains to us this huge abyssal attack that she's heard about. And that sends us on our way to get our first stab in the heart by our sibling.
She apparently found some intel with the character Lon that the treasure hoarders were combining forces from Mondstadt and Liyue to try to infiltrate an Abyss Order hideout. And she actually talks about the Grand Thief before we find them dead, which I did not remember. I thought that was interesting. And she tells us that the Grand Thief is from Fontaine.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, really?
Which is very interesting. Yeah. It was like, oh, Fontaine. Okay. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, then we go and like we find the Grand Thief's corpse and the defiled statue. And then we find our sibling for the first time.
Do you think that the Grand Thief looked Fontainian?
Well, not really, because they were wearing treasure hoarder clothes.
True. Interesting. But yeah, and then you actually don't see Ganyu again until what I always forget that this is an interlude. Technically, I always think it's Shenha's story quest. But you see her again in the interlude when Shenha saves our lives from Beisht, who is Osial's ex, quote unquote. I don't know. I guess she's widowed.
She's a widow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got orphans and widows here, guys. So Ganyu and Keqing are kind of leading. They're like leading the forces on an island using like the ballista. What are they? Fuck. Using the giant like guns on the ground.
The ballista.
The ballista, yeah. It's very interesting because even though Ganyu has like crazy deep lore, that's it. That's all we really see of her in the major quest line. Womp womp. Girl's been around for 3,700 years. That's all we got.
I mean, listen, she gave us a lot of buffs during that Osial fight.
Did she?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just remember thinking, how dare child do this to me? And then I was like, oh, hey, Xiao.
Well, Ganyu is there giving us all these buffs that helped us survive the actual fight.
Well, it sounds like I should have been flirting with her.
Yeah.
Damn it. I always pick the wrong ones.
I mean, she didn't try and murder an entire city.
That we know of.
Right.
I could see her have doing that before she made her contract.
She's like, maybe I can be the Archon.
It's the human side coming out. But yeah, that's all of Ganyu. No, Ganyu does have a story quest that involves like her looking for a mentorship with Xiao. Or
she's not looking for it. She has it.
Not according to Xiao.
Well, Xiao is as unpleasant as normal in that.
Xiao is traumatized and trying to distance himself from hurting anyone. This poor boy.
The excuses for the men you love. We need to break this down one day.
I love the women too.
No, what did you say to me? You know I like all the men in this game. You admitted it.
I thought I said that about Star Rail, but that's
same
fine
difference.
Too. Who only came back to get Kevin. I like the girls in this game too, just not Ganyu and Nilou.
Or Cloud Retainer, or
I like Cloud Retainer.
Not enough to do her story.
No, never. I like Navia and Jean and Mualani and Yoimiya and Hu Tao, Feruzan. Come on. There's others. Kale, Lisa.
Okay,
right.
but I want to see your ranked list of characters from Genshin, and like let's see who's at the top, who's in the first half, and who's in the bottom half.
That's not fair.
Oh, why is it not fair? Because the first half is going to be all the men.
It's all men, yeah.
Listen, I have a type. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, if you want to learn more about my character rankings, come to the Twink Tank Tuesday nights. Anyway.
So our story quest.
Yes, Tip, please digress.
Her story quest is actually pretty funny. It shows up, we go and find, as I keep referring to them as the 3 Bs, because they could be bitches, as well as they're little, like, they're all B. Well, they're all UB.
Baiwen.
They're on me.
Yeah. Baishi, Baiwen, and Baizhao are the 3 of Ningguang's secretaries, and they are so mad that they have to do so much work because Ganyu's not there. And they're like, you know, she went to go do something, like a task that she had. She had to go bring this to Cloud Retainer, and she hasn't been back, and now we have to do her job, and we cannot. Like, she does way too much. And then they're like, we need to go talk to Ningguang about an overtime check. This is all they're worried about.
And that says a lot considering they are Ningguang's secretaries and there's 3 of them. And so they manage Ningguang's schedule. And they're like, Ganyu does so much work that we cannot handle this between the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of setting up the level of work that Ganyu does.
Mm-hmm. She's got some work ethic.
It's just like coaching.
Yeah. I really think that the Liyue Shishing, I think they overwork their people. I think that's what we found out between these 2 characters.
Yeah.
They really overwork them. They need a vision to have these jobs.
Yeah.
But so we head over to Cloud Retainer's abode to go find Ganyu. And when we do, she's just like, I loved my job, but they don't want me. And we're like, what are you talking about? She's completely convinced that she was replaced. She says that they gave her the dignity of having her come do an errand and then replaced her in the meantime. So she's just staying there now because she doesn't want to make a big deal. But, you know, that the 3 Bs are now in her position. And we're like, I think you're misunderstanding this. She's like, no, I am not. She's like, so now I'm going to be an adepti again. I have to get in touch with my adepti side.
Yeah, I hate that.
She's got to choose.
It's like low self-esteem-y smart.
Yeah. She has really bad self-esteem.
She saw them doing her work and she was like, oh, I've been replaced.
Uh-huh. She has bad self-esteem, self-confidence, self-image. She's a wreck.
3,700 years to become that wreck.
I know.
Imagine.
But it's hard when you're torn between humanity and adepti, and the actual dynamic between them has fluctuated to such an insane degree.
And it doesn't also help that your adepti mom is traumatizing you like, well, I guess like a human mom.
Traumatizing. I don't think it's traumatizing.
She has to run. So while we're talking to Ganyu, Cloud Retainer comes over and she's like, oh, I interrupted something. Let me tell you about when Ganyu was a kid. She was fat. She used to roll down the hill because she was too chubby. And Ganyu's like, oh my God. Like, really? And then she goes on to also say how Ganyu, when the first time she saw a pilgrim, like she freaked out and thought it was a monster and hid for like days.
Uh-huh. Adorable.
Yeah. She storms off at this point because she is just like, I have to go train. I can't. And we're like, you didn't really read the room there, Cloud Retainer.
And she's like, I am the room, darling.
Yeah.
That's not traumatizing. That's like a mom gushing over her child in a very embarrassing way.
Well, but it can be traumatizing if you have body issues. And if, you know, your mom is not respecting the fact that you have self-appearance problems, then it can be traumatizing because you're constantly being reminded of something that you hate about yourself or that you're self-conscious about. And I think for Ganyu, that's something that she's like super embarrassed about. So for that to keep being brought up, of course, we don't really know the situation. I don't know if the other adepti bullied her or anything like that, but...
No, that's a good point. And I think that if anything, I mean, this is my guess because they don't actually clarify this in the lore, but I think that might be her human side that's self-conscious about that.
Oh, yeah.
And Cloud Retainer doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Right. She's just like, what do you mean? Like, you're like my little baby. And
she was like, you're my little chubby roly-poly falling down the hill.
Yeah, like she loves it. And so she, you know, yeah, she doesn't really understand the human side.
Yes, that's very true. She's not.
Meanwhile, Ganyu's like, Jesus Christ, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell my friends all about this. Well, Cloud Retainer goes on to tell us a little bit about her half-adepti side and like kind of gives us a nice little cutscene so we can understand Ganyu's loneliness. And basically she says like she overheard Ganyu thinking, which is like, come on, Cloud Retainer, you need to not to read people's minds. She says that, you know, like she heard Ganyu thinking like how she doesn't fit with the adepti and she doesn't fit with the humans either.
She's like the mom that reads her daughter's diary.
Yeah.
So Cloud Retainer goes on to just tell us like, you know, she's training to be more in touch with her adepti self. So we go hang out with her and we do some training, and then she has to go through like Cloud Retainer's trial. And then she's like, oh, there's another one that I have to do. And we, of course, assume it's like Mount Shaper or somebody. And she's like, no, it's the Conqueror of Demons. And here comes the most hated this is the hated teacher. Like nobody wants this guy for their teacher because he is just like, I I'm here.
The twink emo boy's here. Let's go.
Yeah, this is not Xiao in his best light, I will
No.
say.
But he does kind of understand her as much as like he can't really understand the human side that much, but he kind of gets her self-doubt and is trying to push her in the right direction
Mhm.
with this trial.
It's emo meets emo.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also think he understands her loneliness as someone who's
Mhm.
lost all of his partners in Yaksha life, you know.
Yeah.
He knows what it's like to be alone and to feel alone in the world. And while he doesn't get it to the degree of I feel lonely because I'm the only person who knows what it's like to be half this, half that,
Yeah.
he understands her a
Mhm.
little bit more than he lets up on.
Which, I mean, Cloud Returner is probably like, that's exactly why I put him in charge of the second trial. She's like, I orchestrated this.
And just to clarify too, these trials are Ganyu's way of finding out if she can make it in Adepti life, right?
Yeah, she's trying to get back to her Adepti self.
Yeah, and she was like, Mom, I don't want to be among the humans anymore. And Cloud Retainer actually says something like, I don't know if her human side can actually handle just being like straight up Adeptus.
Mhm.
So I think even though she's setting up these trials, I think she also is worried about if she chooses to like live among the Adepti only, that she'll suffer because of it.
Meanwhile, Ganyu's like, Mom, you're raising a whole human up here. Like, if you can raise Shenna up here, you could take me.
Oh, yeah, Shenha's just a human. Yeah, it's just a human. But they're learning, and Shen has his special keys.
Yeah. Wait,
Murder and all.
do you think that the Shenhe part is happening at the same time?
Oh, well, Shenha has to be up there, right? During the storyline, because Shenha's been with Cloud Retainer since she was a kid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But like Ganyu says at one point that she hadn't been up in Juyin Karst for 1,000 years. And I took it as she hadn't lived up there in 1,000 years.
Yeah, and Ganyu also says that she really doesn't know a lot about Shenha. She only knows about her based off things that Cloud Retainer has said.
Yeah.
Oh, so Shenhe could have been raised after she had already like been in Liyue Harbor.
Yeah, Shenha was 100% up there while Ganyu was in the harbor. Yeah.
So they know of each other. They're like familiar.
And I think that even is kind of explained a little bit more in the Lantern Rite when we see them together when we're making kites, because Shenha goes and touches Ganyu's horn with like a mint oil, and Ganyu's like, why the fuck did you just do that? And she's like, oh, I just wanted to like feel them. And she's like, no, don't touch my horns.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like she would have already known that kind of stuff had they been around each other a lot. Don't ever touch anybody's horns without asking.
Don't touch someone's horn.
If I see someone with a horn, I'm literally turning the other way.
Not going up and touching them.
No, unless it's like Lorne. Like,
Yeah.
going.
So Xiao is just like in the middle of a conversation, just goes, there's somebody else here now. And he's like, haha, this is part of your training too. Go deal with the human. And it's a pilgrim.
Another one.
Yeah. He's going up to the mountain to go get a blessing from the Adepti. And he's like, you could deal with this. This is, your field. You got to figure it out anyway. So he's like, I want the blessing of the Adepti to be like, in good health and have a good job and be rich. And she's just like, well, you should really work on things to, get those, because like, it wouldn't be fair if you just got those things because you asked for them. Like, you should work for it. And he's like, you sound like my dad. And it's like, well, yeah, because you should do something, not just ask for a freebie. And he's like, are you even an Adepti? You're probably somebody who's just dressing up as an Adepti and pretending to be somebody so this way you can get my money. And like, she's like really bummed about this. Like, she's so deflated by the fact that this guy is like, you're not even an Adepti. And she's like, I know, I'm not even an Adepti.
He calls her useless.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he's a dick. She should have booted him right off the mountain.
Yeah. She'd be like, I'll show you what's a real Adeptus.
Yeah. Let me drop kick your ass right
She's
into the
very
clouds.
gentle though. Like, she's not the type to stick up for herself for sure.
That's the Qinlin in her. They're not aggressive.
Yeah. We try and convince her again that, she misunderstood and she actually should go back to Liyue Harbor. Like, don't take this one human saying this, like, as a sign. And she's just like, well, fine, I'll go back to Liyue Harbor with you. But if I'm right, I'm coming right back up here. Like, and this is just where I'm gonna live.
Xiao's like, bye.
He just walks away. He was like, whatever, I guess I don't have to do this anymore. Let me go sit and eat some almond tofu again at the top of the Wangshuan.
Let me go wait for Venti to like a little tune to remotivate me.
Yeah, to save my soul.
Yeah. Well, as we go down to Liyue Harbor, we run into Uncle Tian, who, if you just remember our recent episode of Yelan, we were talking a lot about him. He is also part of the Qixing, but this is our first time meeting him. So she's actually like kind of hesitant at first. And he's like, no, go ahead. He's like, with everything that they've done for Liyue, you could tell them my secret. Like, but don't tell anybody. He's like, I like going fishing a lot. I don't need people knowing that I have this high job.
Yeah.
So, of course, more secrets for us to hold on to.
Good for him, though.
Yeah. Well, we know what doing all the fishing leads up to: getting poisoned by a fisherman. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out all that well, Uncle Tian. So Uncle Tian says that, he would really like if we could help out his daughter, Wei Shuin. She is having some problems, but she won't talk to him about it. And she's working over at the pavilion as well. She's the secretary. And Ganyu is like, of course, she's like my junior. Like, of course, I'm going to help her out. Not even like we're sitting there, we're like, she just went right back into it. She's like, oh, yeah, that's my job. I'll do that.
Yeah.
See, you really are needed. So we find her and she's like, oh, I found out something strange when I was going through the tax records for these 2 stores for Second Life and Huayi Boutique. And there's just something going on here. Like, it's not making any sense. And when I go and ask them questions, I just don't get anywhere. So Ganyu's like, I have the perfect idea. She's like, we're going to use the tactic, your enemy knows you the best. And we're going to go and talk to each one about each other, and they're going to give up the details. And of course that works. So we go talk to Bai, who's the one guy at the boutique, and he's like, we rile him all up about his competitor. And he's just like, well, show me the tax record and I'll find something for you. And he's like, Dangsheng was talking so much about this furniture set that he got, but it's not in the taxes. That's where he's skipping paying his taxes. So you should just go find that invoice and you're going to know for sure.
Tax evasion is everywhere.
Seriously.
Even in Teyvat.
It's too bad they're not in America because it's legal here.
Get you become president.
Just be a billionaire. You get no taxes charged.
Tax cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Try to run a podcast. Taxes. Taxes.
Want healthcare? Nope.
Taxes.
Pay some taxes and go buy your own.
Cut the healthcare to fund the billionaires. Yeah.
Late fees. Taxes.
This place is so fucked up. Can we go to Teyvat? I mean, if right now the only tax evasion we have is on a piece of furniture.
I mean, I'm just pretending I'm sitting in Angel Share right now anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Can we just stay? So we go over to Qinche village and we go talk to the carpenter, who was like at first thinking like we were just going to say hi. And he was like kind of pissed that we were there to find out information. And later on, it's called like a retirement area, which I never really thought of like that area as being like the Florida of the country, because it's just a whole bunch of old people. And he's a little crotchety and he's just like, well, you can go find the invoice in my warehouse, but some people took it over, some troublemakers, and I didn't bother. So go have fun. Like, as we turn around, Ganyu was like, well, there's a Fatui agent, a Fatui skirmisher. He's got to be the one that he's talking about. So we go over and we go fight the big purple guy. And he's just like, why fight me? I just stand in here. And we're like, tell us the scheme that you have. There's no other reason why you'd be here. And he's just like, look, I'm only here by myself because I like the berries.
And that's where I raised an eyebrow.
Yeah, he's like, I only came here for the berries. And we're like, what? And he's like, come on, why would I be here all by myself? And I was like, okay, you got a point. He's like, I just wanted the berries. And we're like, you were taking over the warehouse. And he's like, where's the warehouse? So we're like, oh.
We're like, but you're from Snezhnaya. You're evil.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know who you're talking about. So Ganyu's like, oh shit, I just jumped to conclusions. Like, that's terrible. She goes and tells him that he can make a complaint against her. And he's just like, I'm a Fatui. I can't go make a complaint about you. Like,
she's like, please report me.
Yeah. He's like, I can't.
You know what child did? Like, y'all all hate me. I can't do that.
Child who? I only know Ajax.
He's like, thanks, child. I'm trying to pick berries. Ganyu's like, I swear to God, I don't work for ICE.
Yeah. And I believe you can go see him. I believe he's still over there picking berries. It's the same guy. Don't fight him. Just let him pick his berries. So we go over to the warehouse and actually find that there's just hilly turtles that took it over, and we clear them out. We find the invoice and we find out that, yeah, this dude did buy a furniture set and he didn't pay any taxes on it. So we go back to that shopkeeper at Second Life, and he's like appalled that we're even insinuating that he evaded taxes. Then he's just like, we're like, well, what about this? Show him the invoice. And he's like, well, I don't know. And then he's like, I didn't think I left any traces. That had to be that the other dude, my competitor, told you. That's the only way that you would have known. Wei Shuin's like, yeah. So you want to talk about him so we can find this stuff out? And he does. He's like, let me tell you all the shit that he's been doing. And they tell on each other, and Wei Xun's like, "Yay, I did my job." So she says, "Thank you." Yeah, she with Ganyu's help, and she's like, "Hey, like, can I buy you a meal?" And of course, Paimon, real quick, is like, "Yes, us too."
Thank you.
Yeah, and she's like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the most I can do. Like, we can have a meal together." So Wei Xun's just going on and on about how she thanks her and how impressed she is and stuff, and Ganyu's like, "Look. That was Uncle Tian's move. Like, the tactic that we did was the one he taught me. So really all you needed to do was look at your dad. Your dad's been doing it this whole time." And she's just like, oh shit, I guess I should have. Like the pilgrim, listen to your father.
Never.
So as we're at lunch, she continues to, like, you know, we're just kind of talking. She's kind of gushing still about Ganyu. And then it's like, look, I actually need to ask you something. And it wasn't, can I touch your horns? It was, hey, my daughter now works for the pavilion as well. She's the secretary, and I need you to do for her what you did for me. Like, I need somebody to look out for her and someone to remind her, like, this is what your mom would have done. Like, even if it's 20 years later, I need you to, you know, kind of be there for her. And Ganyu's like, wait, I didn't know you thought this highly of me. And she finally realizes that she's important to the people of Liyue Harbor. Because Wei Xun's like, that's everybody. Like, we all love you. Like, we all need you. And you're the one, you've been here so long and you'll be here so long. You're the one that we know will remember our history. She's like, of course. And Ganyu's like, oh shit. Wow, I really do belong. You do like me.
Can we though take a second just to think of the like mental gymnastics that just happened right now of like not only do we need you, Ganyu, but we know because we as humans fear that our history will not be told, and we fear that we will be lost amongst the records. But knowing that you're here, Ganyu, means that our fears are gone because you will record us and you will remember. Mm-hmm. That's a little bullshitty way to try to make Ganyu feel better.
Yeah. You must bear witness. But she's like honored by it though.
Yeah, I didn't take it like that. I took it as, I trust you to look after my daughter because you're going to be alive and the same age when I die.
And the same age.
You're not going to age. Ganyu then, like, she's reinvigorated and she's like, you know what? Even if I was replaced, I'm fighting for it. I'm getting my job back. And we head on over to the 3Bs and they are falling asleep on their feet and they are ecstatic to hear that Ganyu is coming back to work. So they can go back to just making a schedule for Ningguang and fawning over her because we know that's really what they do. They make her schedule and then they just go, oh, she's so pretty.
Yeah, they dream about her naked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just a normal Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, one of them does.
That we know of.
Only one admitted it.
Yeah.
And you can listen to our Ningguang episode. More about that.
Learn more about the naked dreams
of the 3Bs.
Not to be confused with RB.
RB's number 1 B.
Yeah. Woo! Unless the golden bee shows up from Remuria B, I'm sorry. We have to please the Sealies.
I understand.
But you're just secretly that bee.
I wish. Like, hey, Scylla.
And that's the end of her story. She's happily back to work. And then we see her work constantly to the point when she's about to fall over.
Now, I know this is a little backwards. Can we talk about her characteristics as a Qinlin. She's half Qinlin, which is a type of illuminated beast, and she's half human. And according to Volume 5 of the Records of Zhuiyun, the Qinlin characteristics are noble and benevolent, gentle, with grace and elegance flowing through their veins. And it is said that a Qinlin will never harm living things, refusing even to step on an insect or break a blade of grass.
She's broken a lot of blades of grass because she's constantly passing out in fields.
Yeah, I think there's actually another thing where her birthday mail from 2023, it kind of reveals that her benevolence doesn't exactly fit that extreme.
Because of her human side?
Well, in it, she talks about being invited to go fishing with friends. And she's like, that sounds like something that I would like. I would love to go fishing. Will you go fishing with me? So, I mean, I know that fishing doesn't mean she's going to eat the fish, but she's at least willing to hook a fish, you know?
Which could hurt them.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Volume 5 of Records of Zhuiyun. Other Qinlin characteristics are they often roam the mountain forests, but appear only on nights where starlight shines upon clear dew. And for sustenance, they drink only spring water and eat only fragrant herbs. Now, when you think of the origins of Ganyu, Volume 5, again, of the Records of Zhuiyun, which is a book series, it also includes this folk tale that might explain Ganyu's mixed blood and the form of a folk tale. It says that thousands of years ago, back when humans were in their barbaric era, they wore clothes that were made of water lotus and bay leaf. And an illuminated beast ate the clothes of this herb gatherer as he bathed in a mountain pool, but then was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. So to make up for it, she took on the human appearance and was also nude, just like the guy, because she ate his clothes. So they traveled together and spent the night together. And when he awoke, she had disappeared. And then in some cases, the tale says that the Adeptus later left a basket outside his house with a baby in it. And in other cases, the tale says that the Adeptus lived as a human with the herb gatherer and that they had children.
Is this the same herb gathering family that loses Chi-Chi?
You never know. Maybe they were like, oh, our other daughter's gone, so we need a new one.
I mean, Chi-Chi and Ganyu kind of look alike.
I mean, maybe that's why she's obsessed with Coco-Goat.
Coco-Goat, my sister, my great-great-grandmother. Coco-Goat.
Wow, wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah, if she's like somehow related.
She's mother.
Oh, not mother. Come on.
Or, you know, like sister.
Or like
weird
great
sister.
aunt.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how long ago though, Chi-Chi like.
But also, like, we know that Cloud Retainer raised Ganyu since she was a kid, so we don't know what happened to her actual parents.
Well,
yeah.
if her human dad was an herb gatherer, he probably also fell off a cliff. And then she was, you know, #orphaned. and since she is at least 3,000 years old, I mean, she was a kid still for 500 years. So,
orphan alert for 500 years.
Imagine. She's been an orphan for probably thousands of years, guys. How does that feel, Ganyu?
Yeah.
It's like, thanks for reminding me.
She just like flicks her bell.
But, you know, it's interesting that you bring up her parents because, well, her parents are never, ever, 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 ever mentioned.
Mm-mm.
She brings up a lot about the fact that she is half-adepti. It's a big part of her job. It's a big part of her kind of hiding herself. Like, she doesn't want people to know that her horns are horns, and she tells them that they're hair pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And she definitely seems to hide herself. Yeah. She even makes you sign a non-disclosure agreement when you find out that she's an adepti.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in her voice line. She's like, things you want to know about me? And then she tells you, she's like, no, please sign this non-disclosure
agreement. Like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, well, I'm like, you literally told me in that field during the Archon quest that you were an adepti. Now I have to sign the contract?
What if they just don't? What if you're like, no, I'm going to tell everyone?
That's just when you die. Have you ever heard of murder? It's a
You get
human trait.
trampled. Your body shows up with like hoof prints on your face.
And they're like, shit, this person knew the truth. That's so you know.
Grandma that got run over by a reindeer.
Yes, your rain boots. No,
Yeah.
Grandma got run over by rain boots. That's what
Reindeer.
you said.
I
Boots.
meant reindeer.
Rain boots. Grandma got run over by my rain boots. Walking home from my house in the rain.
I mean, it's slippery.
Anyway.
So some other fun little things about her being half Qinlin. Baiju mentions that because of her Adeptus blood, when she gets injured or sick, she doesn't have to take any medicine to recover. So that's nice. She's so old that she and Yaimiko used to meet up to discuss nation relations before the Sakoku decree.
I missed my opportunity to say, how old was she? I feel I still needed to say it. So I interrupted you.
Over 3,700 years. Zhang Li says that she has served the longest time in reference to contracts of those helping Rex Lapis. She's one of the few individuals alive who got to meet Guizhong, which I love. So whenever Guizhong gets, reincarnated as playable, let's look out for Ganyu being like, oh my God.
Oh, my friend. Her and Madame Ping.
Yes.
Zhang Li just cries.
Yeah.
She has a very accurate internal clock. And no matter like what she's doing or where she is, as soon as lunchtime arrives, she will curl up and go to sleep and take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Which is goals, honestly.
Yeah.
I know, I'm so jealous.
But it's also one of the reasons why she might have a goat bell, because she just goes to sleep wherever the hell she is. And one day it was in a haystack on a roadside.
Yeah.
And she only woke up when she was getting bounced around because the haystack was being transported somewhere like 3 hours away. And it was like, oh no, like people were like, wait, she's missing for 3 hours. Like something must have happened. Yeah, no, she just fell asleep in the wrong place. And they're like, you only fall asleep in safe places. And she's like, all of Liyue is safe.
I know.
Like, okay, bitch, no, it's not. Did you remember, child?
You would think that if her internal clock is that accurate, like how long is her lunch hour? Like, why is she asleep for 3 hours?
Yeah.
The hay threw her off.
Is this like a siesta? Is she from Spain? Like, I don't.
She had a particularly large lunch that day and she was really pooped. Maybe it was turkey. She had all the tryptophan.
So speaking of eating, we sort of touched on this, but she's very concerned with her weight and she struggles a lot to watch what she eats, even though she's a strict vegetarian. But we sort of gleaned from a different part of her story that when she was young, when she was a little kid, she was plump. When I first read about her being very concerned with her weight, I was like, what do they mean? Like, she's so skinny in this game. Like, what? Are they trying to imply that her body type is large in this game? And I was like very offended.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized, like, reading through the lore that, like, she used to be bigger when she was little. And then, we find out that during the Archon War, a monster swallowed her, like Tiff was saying before, and choked to death on her body.
Yes. And it makes a point to say that the monster didn't realize how big her waistline was.
Yeah. And it chokes to death on her body.
Yeah.
And she's actually embarrassed by it.
Could you imagine a giant monster tried to eat me and choked?
I'd start eating more. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna need to be like really large during the Archon War. Excuse me.
Yeah. Some of the stories in here with the
But something I found interesting is that Ganyu mentions in either a storyline or a voice line that she has to finish what she starts.
Yes.
She's like, I always need to finish things, and she considers it a problem. And the question becomes, does she feel like she has to finish meals too? Because Zhang Ling mentions that she avoids going to the Wanmin restaurant, and that when she does go to the Wanmin restaurant, she's always in the back corner. And Ganyu says that she like avoids the whole street because it smells so good that she knows she'll go there.
Oh yeah, and she says something about like when she get anything she gets her, she'll finish.
Yes. And I feel like it's kind of interesting because if you think about kids, right? And kids are told, like, you can't leave the table unless you finish your plate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some kids, they get a complex out of that. And they feel like even when they're full, they have to finish their meals as they get older.
Mhm.
Because, they're starving kids in Africa, right? Isn't that what you're always
Yeah.
told?
Yeah.
Oh
The
yeah.
starving kids in Natland want this, Ganyu. Like, how fucked? The Konrians don't have this food, Ganyu. Eat. Like,
But don't you also think it's sort of just a nod to her goat coded thing? Because goats just eat everything in front of them.
if she ate a metal can, I'm waiting for her to eat aluminum first. Like, I gotta see that.
I think a lot of it is to that whole idea of a goat, but it portrays itself in a different way.
Yeah, it's like she has a complex about it, especially if she used to be like bigger when she was a kid,
Mhm.
which I'm like, that's interesting that they chose to give her a complex about that.
Mhm.
I'm assuming part of it's because of her goat codedness, but there's probably some other reason that they're like, oh, make her feel bad for being big.
Yeah. And like she even says in like there's a book that I think it's in her character or friendship stories. It talks about this beautifully written notebook and it has her beautiful handwriting and stuff. But at the end, it's all like scribbled and messed up. And then if you look through it, like we kind of stare at it and try and figure it out, and we see that it's like how to cultivate vegetables and stuff.
Vegetables, yeah. She's like, if I know how to make vegetables, I won't stop eating.
Yeah.
Like she's literally like, I'm gonna get fat from eating vegetables. It's like, what?
She goes out like when she has to like pick up like flowers and stuff, and she's like on an empty stomach, like passing out in the middle of the pasture, like dreaming of eating a cucumber.
Yeah, she needs to hang out with Varessa.
If I ever dream of eating a cucumber, just like send me to the asylum. Like, I like cucumbers, but if I'm dreaming of them, I feel like I've got some major issues to resolve.
And again, I get the whole goat idea of it, but I feel like the fact that they put this story onto a young woman, it bothers me.
Yeah.
Especially because then the second one that they have with some sort of like thickness and, is an overeater of Varessa, like, and that being a woman too. It was like, really? You couldn't give that to a dude?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure a dude would be like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
Well, it's even the different portrayals. Like, you think of the character, if you try to think of guy characters that are obsessed with food, you could talk about Ga Ming and you could talk about Toma. Toma is the hot pot champion, so it doesn't matter how much he eats because he's a champion.
Yeah.
But so's Varessa, right? So that becomes confusing. And then with Ga Ming, I mean, he's obsessed with snacking. He's like, I always have snacks on me. I always bring food. Like, I literally only spend my money on dance equipment and snacks. But it just doesn't come off as strong for some reason.
There's this hidden quest line in Natland. I think I've talked about this before. It's like in the Varessa area, like in that whole area with the food eating competitions where like there's these chubby people that competitively eat. And if you run into them, they're like, you're too skinny. You need to eat more. Like they actually shame you for being too skinny. It's very refreshing because they're like, you're skin and bones. Come on, let's eat. Like eat. Like they're celebrating the fact of like eating and actually gaining weight.
Yeah, they definitely celebrate it there in a way that we do not in the US, unfortunately.
I mean, in the rest of Teyvat.
Yeah, and in the rest of Teyvat.
Because even like Ian-san's like, Ian-san is Varessa's coach and she's just like, you need to eat or how are you going to like train? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, come on now.
Yeah, because you need carbs to burn them, right?
Meanwhile, here's Ganyu working like 22 hours a day on like a cucumber.
I know. And maybe Ganyu's metabolism is like very low compared to someone like Varessa. So maybe that's why she's scared, but it just seems like she tortures herself.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
And I find it interesting that, I'm going to call Shenha her sister in this situation. Like, they have the same mother raising them. Shenhe also eats plants only.
Yeah, herbs.
That's all she eats as well. And Shenhe has no issues with her body.
Nope.
And it's interesting because you would think that the human side of Ganyu is what's causing her to have these feelings, but then her like 100% human, like quote unquote sister doesn't have any of those issues.
Shen has like, I'd rather be eating human flesh, but I guess.
Yeah. Honestly. Every time she's like, as long as I'm not burning something at the Wanmin restaurant, I really don't care. But someone that we've definitely forgot to mention in this little unit that Cloud Retainer has formed is Yao Yao.
Yao Yao.
And I know we mentioned her very briefly earlier, but where Cloud Retainer plays the role of Adeptus mother to Ganyu, I think Yao Yao plays the role of human mother to Ganyu. There's a point where Ningguang thinks that Ganyu has taken Yao Yao under her wing. Ganyu has been told to make sure that Yao Yao doesn't run amok on the crux and these types of things. But then Yao Yao is the one who's like, I really do worry about her. Maybe we should check in on her, make sure she's caring about herself. I'll go get some of her favorite plants to eat. She wants to also assist Ganyu care for Shenhe as she assimilates in the Liyue Harbor, but she really isn't sure how to go about it because she doesn't want to like insult Ganyu by offering her help because she kind of realizes that she's just a kid.
Yeah, it's just the mom.
Yeah, Yao Yao's the human mom who's like really trying to take care of her.
Yeah, the child / mom. Yeah.
And she's also trying to take care of Shenhe, which I think is so funny. She's like, these are my children.
Yeah.
My mother told me to take care of her other children. I'm now the parentified child of Liyue Harbor. I will make sure that my children eat, even if they only eat weird ass plants. They will eat, damn it. And she does take care of them. She's very good to them. And she's a great little sister.
Yeah. Little sister / parent.
I mean, isn't that what a sister's about at this rate? Just being a parent in this game?
Yeah, everyone needs a parent wherever they can get them. Speaking of which, I did want to talk a little bit about Cloud Retainer's story quest. Don't worry, no spoilers, Amanda.
What are you talking about? What spoilers?
With regards to Ganyu, we agree to go with Cloud Retainer during that quest to visit her disciples / children, Ganyu and Shenhe. She mentions that Ganyu has been so busy with work lately that she's barely had time to visit. And then when we arrive, Cloud Retainer's like being good, right? She's like, I'm going to stay back because I know that if Ganyu finds out I'm here, she's going to drop everything, like all of her work to visit with me. And that's going to lead to her staying up all night long to finish her work. And I don't want that.
No, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, like she's a good mom. So instead, she sends us to sort of like go in and find out if she's okay. And then Ganyu immediately turns around and is like, Cloud Retainer? Even though Cloud Retainer is in her Xian like human form, but she immediately recognizes her, notices her, and is like, hello? And Cloud Retainer's like, I don't know who you're talking about. And Ganyu's like, I recognize this form. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember it. And it's like this awkward but sweet moment of like Ganyu like remembering her human form, even though she hasn't seen it in so long. And Cloud Retainer's like, oh, I didn't actually think you would remember it, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the scene cannot pass without Cloud Retainer embarrassing Ganyu with the story of her childhood. So she mentions that when Ganyu was young, she would ask her to cuddle her to sleep when she was having nightmares. And Ganyu gets very embarrassed. And Cloud Retainer's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then Ganyu's like, anyway, Cloud Retainer, if you're going to use a human form, you should really like adopt a human name to go along with it. And so Cloud Retainer's like, yeah, you're right. Call me, Xianyun. And Ganyu recognizes this name from an ancient text that was written about her. And she tells the traveler in Paimon that Cloud Retainer rarely talks about her past deeds, so she's had to read a lot about them in ancient texts. And Cloud Retainer's like, oh, yeah, whatever. This is not important. Don't worry about it. But then Ganyu tells us that at one point, Cloud Retainer saved Liyue from drought and like a poisonous gas that had infiltrated the land by using the wind to gather the clouds or retain the clouds, which created this big rainstorm that dispelled all the drought and the plague in the area. And it's so interesting because Ganyu sort of telling the story to us kind of embarrasses Cloud Retainer.
Payback.
Yeah. Uno reverse.
It's really cute. And then Ganyu also shares with us that she's the one who put Shenhe in touch with Chef Mao to get her hired at the Wanman restaurant. And that sort of like spins off into that part of the story quest.
Which is fun because we know Ganyu's kind of in charge of this assimilation process for Shenhe.
Yeah.
Which is like, thanks, Mom. Just gave me my little sister and said, figure it out. Assimilate her to the big city. Don't let her get mugged.
Yeah. Assimilate.
Or better yet, don't let her mug anyone.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about some of the characters that Ganyu has relations with, or what some of the characters think about her. And a few other people, just to note, Beidou actually gets along really well with Ganyu. And Ganyu, for whatever reason, gets really aggressively defensive of Beidou. Like, if you say something bad, she literally calls people miserable, humor-loving heathens. Because they make...
humor-loving?
Rumor-loving.
Oh, rumor-loving.
Miserable, rumor-loving heathens for talking shit about Beidou. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how that got out. Whoa. Was that me? Or was that Shadow Self? I don't know.
I love that. They're very, like, secret besties.
Yes, Beidou loves her too.
Because of their jobs, right? Like, Ganyu works for... I mean, she's not a part of the Qixing, but she is the secretary of the whole Qixing. So Beidou is, like, on their shady list, so she can't outwardly celebrate her, but privately they're very good friends.
Yes. We also mentioned a little bit about Keqing earlier, and Keqing and Ganyu have an interesting relationship because their voice lines prior to the end of the Liyue Archon quest is basically Keqing being like, Ganyu is obsessed with Rex Lapis and I don't fucking get it, but she's a good worker. And Ganyu is like, I cannot stand Keqing's disrespectful attitude about Rex Lapis. But then they both reflect, and that's what the voice lines are called, reflections or something like that. And Keqing later kind of changes her mind, and she realizes that Ganyu has a lot of knowledge, and she should have a lot more respect for her, and starts to go to her to ask questions. And Ganyu also says that Keqing and her are starting to see more eye to eye on things.
Mm-hmm.
Ningguang, of course, respects and loves Ganyu for all the work that she's done. And Ganyu thinks Ningguang is getting a lot of criticism in her role, despite the fact that she does a lot of good work. We also chatted quickly earlier about Xiao during the storyline, and I think there's a fun comparison for the two of them, of people thinking that they should work together and him feeling like he's basically too evil to help her. Meanwhile, Ganyu considers him a bit of an outsider, and she feels like she can understand why it's hard for him to get close to people, because everyone that he's ever really loved is dead. She says it in different words, but that's what she's getting at.
You're just like, he should be really
dead, dead, dead. Then you have a Yanfei who is very glad she doesn't have Ganyu's job. And it respectfully so, Ganyu remembers Yanfei as a kid and sees her as a very positive light and someone who like truly followed her path. On the other hand, though, Ganyu is not a fan of Yelan. She wants to trust Ningguang and believe that Yelan is doing work, but every time Ganyu sees her, she's like having brunch and laughing.
And she's like, God, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, her eye just starts twitching. Over and over. And the other person that she does have a bit of a relation with in Liyue is Xingqiu. She knows that he's searching for higher purpose, which I think is interesting. She's like, he's nothing like the brother and the dad. He does not care about the business at all. And I think that he's really searching for something else.
Oh, that is interesting.
And the one person we have not talked about, though, who I think is super important, is Zhongli. Now, they don't have voice lines about one another. And there is some interesting questions about whether or not Ganyu knows that Zhongli is Rex Lapis, and whether or not Ganyu knows that Rex Lapis is alive.
I'm pretty sure she does not know.
So there is a theory that she knows, that she just doesn't know it. She thinks that Rex Lapis is alive, but that she does not know Zhongli is Rex Lapis. The theory comes from a voice line where I believe it was Zhongli, or it's either a voice line from Zhongli or Cloud Retainer actually, no, I think it's from Ningguang, that infers that Zhongli can talk to people in their dreams, and that he talked to the Qixing and the Adepti to let them know that Rex Lapis is alive and basically around if needed.
Oh.
And so the question becomes, was Ganyu someone who got to know that information?
I mean, when did that happen? Do we know?
I believe this is mentioned during the Archon quest.
I think it's during the Archon quest that she is talking about how sad she is that he died, right?
Yeah, that is prior to the harbor fight and everything.
Yeah.
Ganyu is very upset and she doesn't know what to do.
And it's funny because like there's a point where we're with Zhongli preparing for the rite of departure or whatever before we even know that he's the Archon, right? And we run into Ganyu and she's like, I feel so sad, Rex Lapis. You know, he was 6,000 years old and he's been around for so long, and blah, blah, blah. And then Zhongli's like, like she's saying this like in front of him, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, she does, yeah.
And she's like, my contract is finally ended. And everyone's like, my contract's done. So that's interesting to think about. Like, are the contracts ended even though he's still alive?
Right. And I think that he waited to tell anyone until after the Archon was like done, you know, especially the Adepti. Like, he needed the Adepti to truly think that the humans saved Liyue.
Right.
So I think it's interesting, and I don't think she knew at that point that he was alive or dead, but you bring up a really good point of like the contract. Was he sitting there going, shit, are all my contracts invalid?
Yeah.
Because he still won't tell me jack shit about my sibling.
I think at one point Ningguang says something about it too. Of like, it's been 3,700 years and now all the contracts are done.
So I guess all the contracts are gone except for the one that refused, that doesn't allow me to learn about my sibling.
Yeah, except for Zhao's.
And Xiao, yeah.
And Xiao, yeah, because Xiao definitely knows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Which is interesting, the idea that Xiao would know and Ganyu wouldn't. I also want to take a quick refresher to, I think it was Lantern Rite 2 years ago, when we start to drown in the Adepti water, and Ganyu is like, what are you doing? And Xiao is like, I'm here to save you. And we're like, oh my god, stop. It felt like brother and sister coming to like our rescue, and we were fake drowning in a pool of water.
I don't remember us fake drowning in a pool of water.
Oh my god. Try.
Remind
Genshin
me.
drowns in water, Xiao. I'm gonna... Lantern Rite. Paimon encouraged the traveler to pretend to drown, leading Xiao to rescuing them 3 times.
Ah.
What? I don't remember that.
Yes, we literally pretend to drown in like the water up at the abode.
Mm-hmm.
It's so ridiculous.
the inch of water that's there.
Yeah. And I think Ganyu is there, and Xiao's like, what are you doing? And Ganyu's like, I don't know, man. This was their idea. I'm not an Adepti, remember? It's definitely one of my favorite random things that happen.
Well, we briefly said it, but Chi-Chi does refer to her as Coco-Goat. Because she knows she's a goat? Who knows? One thing I read was saying that she says it in her skill, like in one of like her attacking things, but she doesn't. So it started making me go, well, why does Chi-Chi call her Coco-Goat? Like, she was looking for chocolate milk, but why does she then refer to it as Ganyu? Like, was Ganyu the one bringing her chocolate milk?
Aww.
Like, that would be adorable.
Yeah. Also, where are the goats?
Natlan.
Yeah, I guess Natlan.
Yeah, they're in Natlan.
I wonder, okay, so you know how like the load screen gives you like those random little like tips and trinkets and things?
Uh-huh.
I think there's one that says like Coco-Goat the legendary adepti.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Maybe Chi-Chi just like put one and one together, and it's like the one thing she remembers. She's like, adepti go!
The legendary adepti beast.
Yeah, there we go.
That's so funny.
But I don't know. Chi-Chi and Ganyu don't have voice lines about each other, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
It's also like one of the most villainous parts of Child's storyline.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. When he laughs at Chi-Chi, like doubles over, like making fun of little dead baby. That is villainous behavior.
But then he sends her Coco-Goat milk.
Too little, too late.
He makes up for it, and she has no memory anyway.
Could you imagine if that's the one thing she remembers?
Is that he made fun of her, and not that he made up for it by giving her gallons of Coco-Goat milk?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Poor Chi-Chi. Poor child. Poor Ganyu.
Poor Chi-Chi.
One thing about Ganyu that's funny is that we know that she's a good worker. She hates being late to things. And there was one time when she was late to the rite of dissension by 3 minutes. And people were like, what's wrong? Like, that's crazy that she's late. And like, she was so embarrassed and so apologetic. Like 3 minutes, like nobody else noticed that she wasn't there yet. And the reason why she was late is that she spent 2 hours making sure she wasn't wearing anything too similar to the previous year's rite of dissension.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, you wear the same thing every day.
That's definitely like a big part of her personality, is that the more important like a thing is that she has to do, the more nervous and flustered she gets by it.
Yeah.
And that's when she tends to make mistakes or forget things.
Yeah. And especially being that it's about Rex Lapis, because I mean, a lot of her fighting lines are like, for Rex Lapis.
Yeah,
like,
she's very dedicated to him.
I just thought that was funny. But it also made me laugh just because I'm like, you wear the same thing every day. And why don't you have hooves?
This poor girl, stop asking questions. Jesus.
It was before they decided to change up the feet.
I really like her horns, by the way. I've always
They're neat.
enjoyed the design. Yeah.
Well, that being said, I think that we have taken enough Coco-Goat milk in for the day. We do have some mail that we have to answer tonight. Kirara is drinking some not Coco-Goat milk, just milk, as a thank you. Our first message tonight comes from Rai, and they said, which burst animation in Genshin is your favorite? I love Arlecchino's and Alhaitham's. Personally, they are just so badass.
I have to agree. Arlecchino's is pretty awesome. And I love when she snaps her finger and then it happens too. It's very cinematic. And I know that there's some people who are really probably a little bit more into the fighting styles of stuff that think it takes too long, but I love it.
Yeah.
So I would completely agree with that. But if I needed to pick a different one, I would say Cloud Retainer or Yuan. Just birds. Me, birds. It's pretty. It's burps. Burp.
So I would also agree. I think Arlecchino's is the best because nothing looks that cool. Although there are some other ones I really like. I really like Yaimiko's. I really like Skirk's. And I really like Yoimiya's.
I don't know if I've ever seen Skirk.
It's cool. It's like she's like tearing a hole through the sky, sort of.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I still think Arlecchino's like is the coolest looking.
I refuse to choose Arlecchino for anything. I actually really like Clarin's, how she kind of comes out from like the shadows of the buildings. And I'm also a big fan of the classic Zhongli meteor. I think it's like pretty fucking cool. He's just like arms crossed, like cool guys don't look at explosion style.
Especially when that one came out, it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it's still whoa. I don't have Zhongli, but whenever someone else is playing as him and we're in co-op and I just see it happen, I'm like, ah! Like, I get scared for a second that I'm gonna get hurt. And I just want to throw in a third honorary, which is I do find Kanicha's very fun.
Yeah, Kanicha's does look very cool.
Getting to see the giant pixel evil Ahau is always a great time. Anything with Ahau is a great time, though.
So different, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very unique. Awesome. Thank you for the question, Rai.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Rai.
You could see everyone but me agreed with you.
But are you surprised?
No one's surprised. Our next message comes from Travo, and they said, question, if you could meet any voice actor for any of the characters within Genshin Impact, who would they be and why? This question doesn't have to stop at just the English dubs, but it could be any language VA.
All right, I want to go first.
Oh, shit.
Because Tiff stole my answer.
Oh, shit.
That's what I get for writing it down.
So I'm not big into like the voice actor like followship. Like I don't know the voice actors that well. I appreciate them and I respect the work that they do. And I think they do a fantastic job. But the only one that I'm like, oh, like that one stands out so much more than others is Anne Yatko, which is the voice actor of the Raiden Shogun.
Okay.
And I just always think about the second Raiden Shogun story quest because I feel like she did something really special acting wise during that quest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always remember it. I always think about it. I'm like, that was so incredible. Like the way that she emoted with that voice that we were already familiar with
Mm-hmm.
and like did something really new with it emotionally, like during that quest. I always think about that. So just for, that fact alone, I would choose Anne, although, I respect pretty much most of the voice actors in the game. Like, I think they're all doing a great job. No complaints. I'm just culturally, I'm not like in the voice actor feed. I'm not like, they're not, in my algorithm.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, Brandon stole
Go ahead, Tiff.
fucking answer. Damn. I would say Anne Yako. And not only because I'm a fan of A, but a lot of the stuff that Brandon said, like those subtle differences between A and Shogun, they're maybe not grandiose, so they're not as obvious, but they're there and they're so subtle and they're perfect. Same thing between Farina and Focalor too. Having that little bit of that difference, it's really cool. And I like I follow Anne on Twitch and she's just fun. But I would also, since mine was actually taken, I'm going to say that instead I'm going to say who my favorite was that I did meet, which was Paul Castor Jr. Not only because we have the episode about him, but because me and Fiends got to meet him at New York Comic Con last year. And he doesn't know it, but he's my best friend. He's so nice. He's genuinely a sweet guy. And I want him to succeed in everything he does because he's a good guy and he's looking after all the penguins and scuba diving or that other kind of scuba diving thing. And he's from Jersey. So,
There's that.
There's always a win.
I'll stop my gushing on him, but he really is awesome.
I appreciate how his combat voices are very exuberant compared to his voice lines. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
The dedication and the passion in it, right? Which we would see from Femine trying to protect his family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when we interviewed him, he kind of threw references to that. I feel like he was kind of like hinting at sort of what he would hope would be sort of a more passionate like emergence from Femine.
Yeah, as his trauma gets help.
It's also fun if you do watch him on Twitch when it's like something that's not voiced, or even when it is voiced in certain things, he'll then read it as Femine. It's just kind of cool.
So I am very engaged in this community.
I was like, here are Fiend's 25 favorites.
I have met Paul last year with Tiff, and that was a great time. And we quite literally stalked out his table because we were like, oh my God, he's going to have such a long line. And we really want to meet him and we really want to do it together. And Tiff only goes to Comic-Con for one day. So we need to do it now. And Paul was great. It was so nice to meet him. And I've actually met Anne too. I met her a few years ago at a convention, and she was also an absolute sweetheart. I am so fucking biased in this world, and I want to meet Koi Dao so badly. He is the voice actor for Albedo. I think he is so funny. He is so different than Albedo, but he is so funny. He is very good. He's just like a chaotic good in the world. If you've seen any of the live streams that the voice actors have done together where they play like Among Us or anything else, he is great. And when I graduated with my master's, I treated myself to a signed photo of his, not photo, a signed like print of Albedo that he had. And I have the clip of him signing it because he did it live on Twitch. And I think I wrote something that was like, oh, like, thank you so much for like bringing this character to life. And he was like, yes. I'm just like, oh my God. So I would love to meet Koi, but I feel like there's not like a lot of opportunities to meet Koi. He does a lot more like international conventions lately. So I'm always like, no. But I'll only do 2, I swear. Because I feel like some of them are pretty obvious. But another voice actor I'd really love to meet is Josie McCoy, who is the voice actor for Kaya. He has also played Steve Rogers in Steve Rogers the Musical in Disney, like live in Disneyland in the like Avengers campus. And I don't know, that's pretty fucking cool to me. And he just seems like very talented and multifaceted, and he honestly seems like someone that'd be great to like sit down and have coffee with, even though I know that'll never happen. I just feel like he has a lot of worldly experiences that would be a lot of fun to chat with him about. But thank you to Travo for the question.
Thank you, Travo.
Thanks, Travo.
That being said, that is all the time we have for today. Unfortunately, we don't have Koidao checking our messages, but we do have Albedo checking our email, so feel free to email him at talesoftevatpod@gmail.com to let him know what you think of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future, and any feedback you have in general for us as a podcast. Additionally, travelers can feel free to follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. We're also on Threads and Blue Sky under the same handles. We are also on YouTube as Tales of Teyvat, if you're interested in playing these on YouTube instead. We also upload all of our old Twitch streams to YouTube, so you can check them out as well. Travelers can also feel free to rate us wherever you listen to your podcast so that travelers know they can find the best herbs to eat over here. The best, Ganyu and Shenhe approved. Additionally, travelers can feel free to check out our Ko-fi, where you can buy us a cup of coffee to keep us awake, just like Ganyu needs to stay awake at work every day. Because unfortunately, we don't get to take naps in the middle of the workday. Ganyu. If I dropped dead to take a nap at 12 o'clock every day, I'd be fired. I don't know.
Wow.
I take a lunch nap. The benefits of working from home.
I take it back. I don't think my boss would fire me, but I think he would be worried about me.
Yeah, if you just drop down on your desk.
Yeah, I just like crawled underneath. I will say the other day I said hi to my boss as he walked by my desk, and he goes, "I'm real worried about you, Amanda." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I all I did was say hello." I was so confused. So I think he'd be very concerned if I started taking naps under the desk.
Maybe he would be relieved.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can feel free to support us on Ko-fi, where it helps us pay for our web hosting, our editing softwares, and everything that helps make the podcast run. So definitely check that out. We not only have a donation option, but we also have merch options as well. That being said, next week, we are going to be welcoming a special someone back to Angel Share with us, as we talk about the Emblem of Severed Fate artifact set. Until then, safe journeys, travelers. We'll see you next time.
Bye, horny nerds.
No.
I was like AO3.
Do you want to